Imagine walking through the Ethiopian desert. The ground looks empty, just rocks, dust. Silence stretches in every direction. Nothing here has ever happened. Then something catches your eye. A small, pale fragment, half buried in the sediment. Nothing dramatic at first. Nothing that would stop most people. That tiny fragment would rewrite history. It belonged to someone who died over 3 million years ago. After all that time, buried in silence, she still had something to teach us. To understand how strange this was, you have to understand what we didn't know. For most of history, we had no answer. Where did we come from? We had myths. We had guesses. By the 1970s, scientists had only fragments, a rough sketch full of holes. Scattered teeth, broken jaw fragments, pieces of a puzzle, mostly missing. Nobody had found a complete skeleton. Nobody could show how ancestors moved, how they lived, what their bodies were built to do. Nobody had found a Rosetta Stone for the human body. That's what made November 24th, 1974 so different. A young scientist named Donald Johanson, working in a remote region of Ethiopia, a place called Hadar, part of the harsh Afar Desert. He wasn't chasing a legend that day. He was doing what he always did. Walking, looking, walking some more, scanning endless eroded ground, searching for anything that didn't belong. That morning, he almost skipped the survey. He had paperwork waiting instead, but something changed his mind. He headed into the gully anyway, almost as an afterthought. Within minutes, he spotted a forearm bone lying in the dirt. Then a piece of skull. Then a thigh bone. Then a rib. Most fossil finds are a single tooth, a lonely clue in an ocean of rock. This was different. More pieces kept appearing, scattered across the slope, as if the ground was handing them back. By the time they stopped counting, several hundred fragments, belonging to one single individual, nearly 40% of an entire skeleton. For a fossil this old, that's unbelievable. Most ancient hominins are a tooth, a jaw, a sliver of bone. This was a body, a story written into the skeleton itself, waiting 3 million years to be read. That night, the camp celebrated loudly. A cassette tape played a Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Somewhere in the adrenaline and disbelief, someone said it almost as a joke. We should call her Lucy. It stuck. A discovery that would reshape human history, carrying the name of a psychedelic pop song. Somehow, that made her unforgettable. But naming her was the easy part. The real mystery was only beginning. Who was she? What did she look like? How did she move through the world? Scientists carefully cleaned the bones, cataloged every fragment, reconstructed what they had. Her species, Australopithecus afarensis. Researchers studied the wear on her teeth, the fusion of her bones. She died between 11 and 13. In human terms, already a young adult. She stood only 3.5 feet tall. Small enough to barely reach your waist. But her size wasn't the biggest surprise. Her hips were. Researchers examined her pelvis and leg bones. They found something that shouldn't coexist. Not with what scientists thought they knew. The angle of her knee joint, the structure of her hip, the alignment of her spine. These were the bones of a biped, a creature built to walk upright, on two legs. The same design your body uses right now, to stand up from a chair. This was the shock. Lucy lived over 3 million years ago, long before scientists expected upright walking. Her brain was barely larger than a chimpanzee's. For decades, scientists assumed big brains came first. Upright walking, they thought, came later. An upgrade built for a smarter creature. Lucy proved the opposite. She walked before she was smart. Standing up freed her hands for something greater. But that had nothing to do with intelligence yet, which raises an uncomfortable question about why she walked. If intelligence didn't cause it, then what did? The leading theories point to something surprisingly mundane, freeing her hands simply to carry food home, reducing brutal exposure to the harsh equatorial sun, traveling efficiently across a landscape slowly turning to grassland. Nothing glamorous, nothing like the movies portray it. Just survival, one small adaptation at a time. But here is where the story turns strange again, because Lucy's arms tell a very different story. Her arm bones were proportionally long and curved like the arms of modern tree-climbing apes. Her fingers showed that exact same telltale curvature. For years, scientists have debated what this means. Was she purely built for walking on ground? Or was she something rarer, something in between? The debate still isn't settled among scientists today. Some researchers call those arm bones evolutionary leftovers, fading ancestral traits no longer serving a purpose. Others argue Lucy lived a genuine dual life, walking by day, climbing by night, without contradiction, caught in an evolutionary transition zone between worlds, two entirely different ways of surviving the same landscape. And when you consider the world she lived in, that dual strategy makes a haunting kind of sense. 3.2 million years ago, Hadar looked nothing like today. Not the barren desert visitors would recognize today. It was a mosaic landscape, part woodland, part grassland, threaded through with rivers and slowly shifting lakes. Crocodiles patrolled the ancient waterways of her world. Saber-toothed cats prowled silently along the tree lines. Massive extinct relatives of hyenas hunted in organized packs. For a 3-foot-tall creature with no claws, no fangs, no natural armor to speak of, that landscape wasn't scenery. It was a gauntlet. Some researchers believe Lucy herself died from a fall, possibly falling from the very tree that saved her. Her body found at the bottom of an old stream bed. If true, it's a strange and quiet irony indeed. The same adaptation that may have saved her species might be the very thing that ended her life. We don't know for certain. The evidence stays debated. But it's hard not to feel the weight of it. A creature caught between two worlds, ground and tree, possibly killed by the instinct that once saved her ancestors. Think about what an ordinary day looked like for her. No permanent shelter waited for her at night. No stored food ever waiting for tomorrow's hunger. Just constant movement from one patch of plants to the next. Wary eyes constantly scanning the distant tree line. wary eyes constantly scanning the surrounding open grass. Her species likely ate fruit, leaves, seeds, and tough vegetation, foraging together in small, tightly knit family groups. Her molars were thick, built for grinding tough food. Teeth adapted for a world where easy food ran out fast. There was no room for rest. Not really. Every day was a negotiation between energy spent and found. Staying close to the fragile safety of the trees, or venturing into open ground where food and danger waited. And danger was constant here, never merely occasional. Not a dramatic once-in-a-lifetime event, just constant. Lucy's species likely lived in small, loosely organized bands. Some protection through numbers, but nothing close to enough. No spears, no fire, no fortified camp yet existed. Predators had every advantage: speed, claws, night vision. Lucy's species had almost none of those advantages. Instead, they carried a strange, uncertain hybrid of traits. Upright hips built for walking long, exhausting distances. Curved fingers built for one desperate option: climbing to safety. It's not a romantic picture, not a noble ascent. It's smaller than that, and somehow more remarkable. Survival purchased one narrow escape at a time, stretched across hundreds of thousands of relentless years, by creatures with no idea what they were building. Lucy wasn't alone, not in the broader sense. Her species survived for hundreds of thousands of years, adapting, spreading, enduring a landscape with no mercy and no guarantees. Millions of years later, Lucy would change humanity's understanding of itself. Before her, the fossil record was thin and fragmented, full of gaps that left room for endless speculation. After Lucy, scientists finally had a complete body plan, a skeleton solid enough to test real theories against. She became a fixed reference point for the entire field. Every future discovery would be measured against her. Newer fossils have since added nuance and complexity. The Australopithecus finds push the story even further back. More Australopithecus specimens have complicated the picture further. Some researchers argue Lucy is a direct human ancestor. Others argue she's simply an evolutionary cousin instead, one of several species experimenting with walking upright. The human family tree isn't a straight line. It never was, and it never could be. It's a tangled, branching bush full of dead ends, overlapping species, failed experiments, and forgotten evolutionary attempts. Lucy doesn't answer every question about that tangled tree. What she did was force scientists to admit uncertainty, and gave them real evidence solid enough to argue about, which is exactly what good science is supposed to do. So what does Lucy actually tell us about ourselves? She tells us walking came before wisdom ever did, that vulnerability, not power, shaped our earliest choices. Somewhere in a shifting, dangerous, and disappearing landscape, a small, fragile creature made unremarkable survival choices. Day after day, generation after generation, without pause. Those choices rippled forward 3 million years into you. She never built a fire of her own. She never carved a tool sharp enough to change history. She never watched a sunrise and understood tomorrow existed. She lived a short, hard life between two strategies, in a world offering no comfort and no certainty. And then she fell, or she simply didn't. Either way, she died and the desert buried her. For more than 3 million patient, silent years, she never built a single city of her own. She never invented writing, not of any kind. She never crossed a single ocean in her life. She never knew her name would echo for millions of years. Carried by a song she could never have imagined. Discovered by a species she never could have predicted. And yet, without understanding her, we cannot fully understand ourselves. Somewhere in that small, fragile skeleton, still lying in dust, waiting for someone to finally look down and notice, is the answer to a question we haven't stopped asking. Not the question of where we are going, but where, against every impossible odd, we actually began.